because now 10 years of multifamily, I may be in a different, higher level spot than I'm at now.
If you're investing, investors will.
The podcast for all things real estate investing.
Welcome back to another episode of Investor One-on-One. Today's guest is a real estate investor who's built multi-state operation focused on buying single-family homes and funding investor deals across the Southeast. After earning a business management degree from Kennesaw State, he leaned into his natural talents, patience, persistence, and a knack for asking the right questions to carve a unique space in the industry. He now runs two thriving companies, a home buying business operating in Georgia, South Carolina, and North Carolina, and a short-term lending firm serving the same markets. His strategy, building capital through active investments and deploying into passive income streams like rental properties, long-term notes, oil and gas royalties, and equity partnerships. So please welcome to the show, Parker Stiles.
How you doing? Happy to be here.
Happy to have you on, man. Like I said, we met in boardroom and I love the way your perspective is in this industry. So looking forward to today's questions. So let's start off with, your story. What first drew you into real estate investing, into this industry, and how did Barrington Home Buyers get started?
Yeah, so going back to about 11 years ago was when I kind of got my start. I graduated college in 2024. Growing up, I knew I always wanted to be in real estate in some capacity. I just had no idea what direction I wanted to go in. Obviously, there's a million ways to make money in real estate, and that's half the problem is because you get distracted and shiny object syndrome, and you end up trying to go down too many roads at the same time. But what I did is I did what most people did, and I got my license and, tried to go down that road, but I didn't want to do it the traditional way. I didn't want to do, let me kind of back up a little bit. I've always been a little bit of a rebel. I've been fired from like every non-entrepreneurship job I've had. I've almost been let go from all of them because I wanted to do it. I wanted to get it done. It was my goal that I wanted to hit. I didn't know what that meant for a long time until I realized that was an entrepreneur. I wasn't fitting into all of these, any of the boxes that everybody was trying to get me to fit into. So I had to build my own box. That was on running my own business, designing life by my own rules. Before I ended up going full entrepreneurship, I got my license. I got it was a job, but it wasn't a W-2 job. I started on a draw and I was working in the industrial commercial sector. So I was still cold calling tenants and landlords, but with 50,000 square foot warehouses with like some office up front or some retail up front. They wanted to go into a bigger space or maybe they wanted to sell, blah, blah, blah. Well, you could guess it. I got fired from that job as well. And about 6 months earlier from being let go, I stumbled into flipping houses. Before that, I was in multi-level marketing. That was like my first kind of true entrepreneurial gig. And I'm glad it didn't really take off because I don't want to be known as a multi-level marketer. But I learned a lot of cool stuff from that industry. And it's so big in personal development. Bob Proctor, Jim Rohn, the Compound Effect, Darren Hardy, like all of these. It's just so PD heavy that it built my mind to sustain like entrepreneurship, the journey, to be okay with the failure, get rid of the latch on immediate gratification that everybody else seems to have these days because everything else in the world is immediately gratified, or they're trying to create that environment. And so it built the mind that I needed to start entrepreneurship. So fast forward, I got let go. I stumbled into, real estate investing, and I said, all right, well, I guess be careful what you wish for. Because I had said like 6 months before, I was like, man, I'm going to be a rehabber. I'm going to be a real estate investor. If I ever quit, if I get confident enough to quit, or if I get fired, like, I don't even know why I said that. I literally said that to myself. If I get fired, like I thought it into existence. And then sure enough, that happened. And I said, okay, well, here we go. There's no going back. I'm not going to go get another job. I apparently can't keep one. I was too terrified to tell my parents that I got let go from my first real job. So I spent the next 2 months just kind of undercover, staying home all day, watching YouTube videos, reading books, reading blog posts, listening to podcasts like every hour of every day, and just building a business plan basically. I started handwriting yellow letters on the floor. I was ordering yellow bandit signs, and they were all over my house that I was renting at the time. Black Sharpie markers everywhere, driving by, doing appointments with sellers, having no earthly idea what I was doing or how to calculate repair costs. That was the beginning in a nutshell. It's just trial by fire and jumping in with not 1 feet, not 2 feet, but like my whole body. Like I burned the boats. There was no other option but to make it work. That was the start.
Wow, man, that's inspiring. And I feel like at the end of the day, everything happens for a reason. And from every failure or firing that you got, you learned a lesson out of it and it made you who you are today. So thank you for sharing that. And can
Yeah.
you talk a little bit more about what you do today, what your current operations are, and if a few deals that you'd like to share with us?
Yeah, sure. So it started out as just rehabbing some houses here and there. Did like one the first. It took me 8 months to find my first deal. First deal ended up being a wholesale before that word was ever being thrown around as exit strategy. But I bought it as a rehab. Then I went to this event, and this guy was like, "Hey, why don't you wholesale it?" And I said, "Well, how do I do that?" And he said, "Well, this is how you do it." And I said, "Well." I got a calculator. I know my numbers. Like, there's no way somebody would pay more than what I paid. Like, that's just isn't going to happen. And he was like, "Why are you arguing for or negotiating for somebody that you don't even know yet? Like, you don't know how much they'd pay for the house. You don't know why they'd want the house. Are they buying it for a rental, a short-term rental, a flip? Do they have two other houses in the neighborhood and they're willing to overpay to keep everything close together? Like, you don't know. So don't negotiate for buyers that you don't even know about." So I pushed away my preconceived ideas about it. I went home, I did some marketing, and I had that thing sold in a couple weeks. And that was the first, like, I think it was $12,500 was the wire to my bank account. And that was the first paycheck. And I was like, all right, it's game time. If I can do it once, I can do it 100 times. I started doing some rehabs. Fast forward a year, 2 years later, I realized I hated working with contractors and managing all that stuff. Got taken advantage of a couple times, and I stumbled into virtual wholesaling. Opened up into Charleston, South Carolina, about 5 hours away from me, a virtual wholesaling business. Had to stop everything I was doing in Georgia, flipping, rehabbing homes because it was taking all my time and money. Got that going after about a year and a half and said, "Hey, I'm in Atlanta. Why am I doing it 5 hours away and not doing it here?" So I copy and pasted, did the same thing in Atlanta. So now I got the two operations going. Then we opened up into Columbia, South Carolina. Then I got the bright idea of thinking that I wanted a office, like a W-2 style office. I saw everybody on social media with the ping pong tables and the gong. Side note, this is actually from my office that we shut down. And I was like, I'm not selling this, I'm keeping it. And I got the office. And so I had this 1099 team that had been running for like 5, 6 years at the time. Everything was chugging along. And then I was like, I'm going to do an office also. And I'm going to have a W-2 team and kind of split test it. I had a branch manager over there because it was in Charlotte. And then I ran mainly everything with my sales manager on the virtual side. And long story short, it definitely could have worked out, but I kind of I had the right person, but he was in the wrong seat. And that person that was branch manager is still with me. He's my general manager today over everything, but it just wasn't distracted. It was a shiny object. I got distracted. It's not what I've wanted. All my businesses are virtual. I've always worked from my house. I love working from my house. I hate having to, I don't want an office that I have to show up to and put a smile on when I'm not feeling like, putting a smile on and all that comes along with that. And so we shut it down. We went back to virtual, but we kept Charlotte as a market and we still do deals there today. And then the most recent change was South Carolina passing a bill to make wholesaling illegal, which is the first state in the country to actually do that, make it illegal, not just pass a bill saying you got to have a license or you have to disclose or any of the other 13 or 14 states that have passed some type of legislation. South Carolina literally says it's illegal. So that's where all my deals, or the vast majority, has been coming from last 6, 7 years. So we had to make a massive pivot last December, made the decision to do no more marketing. Now we're in 10 different states. We're heavy in PPC, direct mail, and television. So we came from doing like 10 different marketing strategies, very deep in core markets, to going wide in many markets and just a couple lead generation strategies, mainly PPC direct mail. It's been a roller coaster the last few years. Honestly, it's it's not an easy time for real estate investors, and it's a fight to stay relevant and keep paying the bills and making the bucks. That's just where we are right now with interest rates and everything else that's going on in the economy, and it's not always going to be like this. So we make it out to the other side. Why people are falling off like flies left and right. Every time I go to an event, I'm hearing about, oh, we shut down our office, and yeah, we just fired half our staff, and oh, we're downsizing. And for every one of those guys, there's 10 more that just completely went back to their W-2 job that couldn't make it work. So we make it to the other side of this, we're going to be knocking the cover off the ball, and I'm excited for that.
For sure. I love the mentality, man. I love the hunger. And following up on that, you invest in very hot and competitive markets. I know a lot of people are going into those areas as well, even from, virtually. What sets you apart and helps you stand out, especially in today's market?
Well, I'll be honest, I'll make a slight correction with that. I mean, we are in those metro markets, less in Atlanta now. We haven't done much in Atlanta for a long time because of how competitive it got. Ever since the hedge funds kind of came in 2019, 2020, we started pivoting more to Charleston and Columbia. And when I say Charlotte, I don't necessarily mean Charlotte Metro, more outskirts, Gastonia, Northwest, Northeast. Now we're even going into like sub markets like Raleigh, Durham, which is also pretty hot. Winston-Salem, Greensboro, the Triad area. We bolted on a new market recently, Fayetteville, North Carolina. And so the reason I wanted to make that correction is we're actually trying to stay out of the metros, out of the really hot areas, because I don't want to differentiate myself, deal with that competition. So we're going to the slightly slower areas that still have, movement to them. Now, we get some stuff out in the boondocks, PPC marketing, because we're doing statewide marketing, and they're tough to move. And we have to be selective on like, no, we're not even going to make an offer on this one. Or we will make an offer on this one, but it's only going to be for a novation. We will not do a cash offer on that one. To be selective about what we're going to go into, because we got to be able to move it on the back end. Otherwise, it's just a big waste of everybody's time. So I like the sub markets that are just a little bit outside the heavy guys.
Sure. And I know before you started getting into single family, you had your hands in a bit of everything. Um, why did you choose to focus on single family homes, and what makes them a strong asset class in today's market and for the future?
Big buyer pool. It's somewhat recession proof. I think you could say the same thing about multifamily though. Every time a recession happens, people slide down one or two ranks, and there's always going to be a group of people sliding into renting apartments, as long as it's not premium apartments. That's not necessarily recession proof. But single family houses, I mean, same thing. You got premium single family houses, you got your mid grade, and you got your D class areas. We try and stay out of the D class. We stay out of the A class. I love that B plus, B minus, C plus range of single family assets. And why? It's just it was a lower barrier of entry at the time. I was scared. I'm in commercial now. I'm doing some development now. We have a lending business now, but early days, it just seemed like the easier thing to go into. And sometimes I wish I would have started to go into bigger stuff from the get-go, because now 10 years of multifamily, I may be in a different, higher level spot than I'm at now, but I don't waste too much time, thinking about woulda, coulda, shoulda, because I'm very happy with, what we've been able to create and what it's compounded into, and, what the next 10 years are going to look like.
For sure. Let's talk a little bit more about strategy. I know you spoke a little bit about seller finance. How do you decide whether a deal should be flipped, held as a rental, or structured as a seller finance deal?
Great question. So I used to spend a lot of time on this. I used to rack my brain, all the calculators, and spend way too much time and energy deciding like what exit strategy I was going to take a property. And I had a mentor tell me that I just need to put my mental SOP on paper and then clean it up a little bit. And now I have a process for every time a deal comes across. Because back when I was doing dispo, doing acquisitions, doing some TC. Over the years, I've bought my time back and hired, great people for these positions. So I'm not talking to sellers or buyers or attorneys or anything. I'm just having, one-on-one meetings with different heads in the company and kind of strategically making sure we're moving towards, continuing to move in the right direction of our mission and our goals. That allows me to essentially look at a conveyor belt of deals of off-market, properties that come across my desk every week, and we make decisions as a team, usually on what's going to, happen to each one. So I have a deal qualifications sheet, and so we look at that each property and say, hey, this one's going to be a wholesale, this one's going to be a novation, this one could be a wholesale or a wholesale. How are we going to decide? It's just a formula. If we can wholesale it and make this, and it has this minimum ROI, and it has this minimum deal profit based on these standards, and it's this times more money than what we would make if we wholesaled it, then we'll wholesale it. Same for the rehab. Hey, this one worked. We could wholesale it, we could wholesale it, or we could rehab it, go all the way. All right, so I want a calculator. We're going to make this much. If we take the extra risk and take the extra time, we can cut it in half and do the wholesale, or we can take the quick nickel now. It's all that quick nickel versus slow dime mentality. And it also is dependent upon your current cash within the company. If I'm low on cash, it might be a good rehab, but I'm going to take the quick nickel today because I want to go ahead and get that influx of cash into the business. If I'm cash heavy and, bills are good and we got some room to run, even if we don't close, as much as we might think, then yeah, if it meets, again, the multiple of the wholesale, usually 2 times minimum of what we would be able to make on the wholesale with a minimum of 35 grand more than the wholesale, and then ROI and all of these factors, we'll take the risk and go the long haul. We've got a couple right now. One's in Charleston, $225,000 renovation. We picked it up for about 640 grand. We're going to throw the 220 or so into it, and it should be worth about 1.3 when we're done with it. So that was one where I was like, all right, I could wholesale it now. I could probably wholesale it and make 6 figures, maybe 120 grand or something. You don't get too many of those. I'm not in San Diego, we're in the Southeast. It's hard to pass that up. But I ran the numbers and I was like, there's a few likely scenarios where if we rehab this, it's going to be a big project. It's going to take some time, and there's probably going to be some more costs that come up that I'm not factoring in. But even with some buffers, it could be $250,000 payday. So, you just have to roll that in. And we decided to, take the long haul on that one. And that's really how we look at each property. There's another one that we just got where we could wholesale it and probably make 30 or 40. But we're looking at, because of the lot that it's on and how big it is and the hotness of the area, we're considering demoing the house that's on it, even though it's a very livable house, tearing it down, subdividing, and build 2 new construction houses on the lot, selling for $700 a piece. And it could be roughly $350,000 payday after you do that, versus, which is about a 15% return on investment, versus a $30,000 or $40,000 wholesale fee. So, you 10x your profit or revenue, but you have to weigh in the time and the risk and where's the market going to be 6 months from now, and all of that.
In your opinion, where is the market heading to?
I know better than to answer that question, because somebody will be watching this 6 months from now calling me an idiot.
We can follow up to the next question then.
Yeah, no crystal ball. I mean, if I had to say something, there's too many variables. And in my opinion, I say this a lot to people with politics and the news and, what we're hearing. Like, we're hearing what the string pullers want us to hear. That's the message that we're hearing. If there's a different thing going on behind the scenes, we're not going to know about it. And by the time we do find out about it, it's going to be, too late anyway, usually, to make any, advanced decisions. So what I do is I stay connected with groups like the Boardroom Mastermind, Brett Tanner's Be Wealthy Mastermind, all the friends and stuff that I've met in the industry, and people way smarter than me the last 10 years. And I just, I have a lot of ears to the ground with those people, and we do what we can to stay ahead of things. Right now, I do see a decline. I see a lot of inventory coming online, more properties coming online, less properties selling. We're already seeing price reductions. We're already seeing rental growth decline nationwide. For perspective, this is, we're about to be in July of 2025. That's going to present a price drop of home sales, home values. And so when you're buying, we're really focusing on buying right, buying deep. If we're taking something down and we don't have the ability to price reduce or something like that for like a novation or a wholesale, if we miss something, like I'm not going off of my sales team's assessment and taking down a property for a wholesale or rehab or new construction. Like I'm double checking, triple checking. I'm asking multiple agents. I'm getting multiple bids from contractors because it's very easy to get hurt and get stuck with something right now.
I agree. I know we spoke a lot about scaling and operations and boardrooms. What were the biggest challenges in scaling across multiple states virtually for you, and how did you build the right systems and team to make this work?
I mean, we're still dealing with the multiple states, just kind of pain points and learning these how to move deals in these areas and cities that we can't even pronounce and states that I've never been to and in areas where we don't have I've got contacts in Charleston and Atlanta and Columbia and Charlotte, but we go to, Timbuktu, Indiana. I don't know anybody, so we're having to make new realtor contacts and inspector contacts and all of that stuff each time. So we're building out the processes there, but it really doesn't matter if you have good people. And so I don't want to say lucky. There's been some luck. I've been blessed to come across good people, but that doesn't mean that I haven't had my fair share of people that haven't worked out and that I've let go or that have quit or what have you. So it's a numbers game like anything else. We hire for our sales team on a pretty regular basis, and we have a process for that. We do weekly interviews. But when it comes to like my executive positions, like my director of administration, my general manager, my sales manager, those guys have been with me. Sales manager 8 years, general manager going on 5 years, going on 6 or 7 years for my director of admin. So, long tenure, really know the business well. They know the process better than me. I mean, and so it's gotten to the point where I can truly step away and trust that stuff's not going to fall apart. It allows me to do things like building Fast Track Funding, our hard money lending company in Georgia and the Carolinas, and can also be the nightmare of entrepreneurship.
I couldn't agree more, man. I know earlier when we spoke, you said that you were getting a lot of your deals through PPC, cold calling, email, right?
No cold calling, no email, but PPC. Yes.
PPC mainly.
PPC, direct mail, and very low deal flow, but we're doing television right now, North Carolina.
And what does your acquisition pipeline look like today?
I think last time I checked, we had 36 properties under contract, a mix of wholesales, novations, ongoing rehabs. We took down a property yesterday that we're going to wholesale. We've got a new construction deal in there and one for a rental property. We usually hover somewhere between 25 and I think at max we had. It's obviously with this decline this year been a more challenging year, but last year I think we got up to 51 contracts total that we were working at the same time. That broke a lot. My director of admin called me and was like, "You got to help me here. I can't do this anymore." Like I basically let it go too long where all of our systems were, bolts were popping and everything. So we had to make an additional hire to help her out. I got her an assistant. We brought in a dispositions coordinator to kind of split responsibilities and created some new tracking software and all that good stuff. It's always the market seems to be changing about every six months. So it's been a moving target the last 3 years, I would say. If I think back, let's see, my first full-time year was 2015. I mean, so let's start at like 2017 when I started getting some speed, like 17, 18, 19, 20. It kind of just seemed to just kind of slowly like just keep going up. Hedge funds started coming into the space. That was when things really started heating up. And then ever since COVID, really, it's just been like boom, boom, boom.
I agree, man. And even though, like we spoke about the past, the future of this market, and people need a place to live. There's always gonna be people. And, you always need to be a people's person. I feel like, after talking to you and meeting you, you're very good at talking to people, very people's person. So when it comes to talking with sellers, What were you saying?
And because of that, because I'm not talking with the sellers, I'm not talking to the buyers, I got to go find people who also have that skill set. So that's been the biggest thing, is making sure, like, once a lot of people, once they get off the phones, they're so happy to get off the phones, but they realize they just put somebody that sucks on the phones. So they have to, honestly hire. It's hard to write the paycheck sometimes for that person, but that's going to be the person that ends up growing your business bigger than you were able to do it yourself.
For sure. I think okay, I'm back. All right. I couldn't agree more, man. So do you have any, because I know when you started, do you have any go-to negotiation tips for closing more deals? Like when you hire someone that you would tell them that?
Um, yeah, I mean, we have a whole training that comes in. We do weekly trainings, actually. Our sales manager runs. So like when somebody comes in, I mean, it's a massive opportunity that we're offering for somebody to be able to come in. We're bringing in about 100 leads a week. I mean, we have way more opportunity than we have people right now, which is why we're focused so much on the sales team. But we're running them through training. And I guess if I had to pick one thing, it'd probably be John Martinez mentality, going negative, kind of staying one step behind. And what I mean by that is, I'll just say, staying one step behind is, if the seller's like, I don't know, it's kind of a low offer, and that's not really what I was thinking it was going to be, then we're immediately jumping in and saying, hey, honestly, yeah, it sounds like I don't want to even push this any further. We're probably well under what you would ever accept. And I'm honestly pretty frustrated at the finance team for delivering this offer. I'm going to do what I can to try and, get it up. But do you think it makes sense to just go ahead and call this a no for right now, and just kind of go our separate ways? So we actually were more of a no than he was to us. Now let's go a little bit further. Yeah. Okay. I mean, this offer's not bad. I was honestly thinking it was going to be lower than this. So I'm a little surprised. I think it could work. Now we're going to say, hey, listen, Jerry, I think it might work, but obviously there's a little hesitancy in your voice. And I'm going to do a deal with somebody that, thinks it might be a good option for them. We're going to do another, 6 to 10 deals, whatever it is, this month, and like, it doesn't have to be this one. Like, I only want to work with people who know this is an amazing opportunity for them. Like, we're getting a good deal and they think they're getting a good deal. I have to have a win-win on both sides for me to be able to sleep good at night. And it just doesn't. I don't hear that in your voice. I'm not trying to kill the deal for myself, but I mean, is that kind of what I'm hearing? So we're, again, one step behind. We're kind of going more for the no than they are. You can go all the way to, yeah, I'm ready to sign, right? And you say, are you sure? This is a big step. Again, I'm not trying to like blow up a deal for myself. I am the sales guy at the end of the day, and I benefit from this, full transparency. But like, where are you going to go? Do you have that planned out? Have you thought about this? Is there anybody else that might, be frustrated with this decision that you're making to sell the property? Like, I just want to make sure you're super, super confident. And so again, you're going for the no. You're always one step behind them. If you're the other way around and you're leading, people get, they get greasy feeling, then, you get the car salesman vibe. And so that's just been one thing that's really helped us not have commission breath, so to speak, and, really provide value, because we're bringing up those things that they may be forgetting to bring up themselves. And if you seem like you are potentially putting something in front of you and closing the deal that benefits them, then they're all of a sudden thinking, oh man, this guy really cares about what's, going on. And they actually do want to provide a value here. And I know that if we're not providing a value, we're not going to get a good deal.
Man, I agree, and I love that strategy. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah.
So let's say right now you have this guy on the phone, right? And a person's asking for $400,000 for his property. How do you and your team analyze the deal on the phone so you can get him to sign, on the spot?
Yeah. So first of all, I'm going to say like 400,000, 400,000. Where did you get that from somewhere? Where'd you come up with that? And I just want them to talk about it. I want them to spew things like, oh, that's my neighbor's house that sold down the street, or yeah, my agent friend told me this, or no, that's just what I owe on my payoff, and that's really all I want to, whatever it is. But we need that information. And so mirroring is a massive technique that we use that's super simple. It's literally just repeating what they're saying and then don't say anything else and wait for them to give you more information on that. But going into the process, we're going to find after repair value. We're going to do our best to find fair market value, current condition. Usually we need pictures to really hone in on that. We're going to find market rent, and then we're going to plug all that into our repair offer calculator. So I've got this super cool repair offer calculator that's been built over the last 10 years, where we're using that every day. My sales team is plugging in. You have check boxes for all the repair options. It's super cool the way that it's built out. It pumps out a repair estimate at the bottom. We have like a phase 1 reno, phase 2, phase 3, and it adds different percentages based on, is it just carpet and paint and like it's pretty good, or has it been vacant for over a year, or is it a full gut? There's obvious signs of foundational concerns, yada, yada, yada. And it's adding buffers to your repair amount. And then that repair amount flows into like 5 different exit strategies. And it gives you a graph that gives you a ceiling and a floor offer for those different strategies. And then there's like 5 additional tabs it's on a Google Sheet where you can go deeper into those exit strategies for novation, or if you're going to take it down as a rehab, and you can play with all the numbers individually. If anybody's listening to this and wants it, I offer that for free. If you go to coachingwithparker.com, scroll like halfway down, there's just a spot that says if you want to get our free repair offer calculator, you can plug that in and it'll get sent right to you. And let me know if you have any questions on it. But it's been a really cool tool for us.
Sounds like an awesome tool, man. I'm going to link that below into this video. And,
Awesome.
I'm enjoying this conversation. I'm getting out of it myself. You really know this business inside and out. Do you have a favorite, quote or a mindset that guides your business? And to kind of conclude this, what's next for you, both on a professional level and personally?
Not a quote, but just as a mindset, it's going to be to get where you want to go. It's going to take longer than you think it's going to take to get where you want to go. And that's the reason why very few people are at where you want to go. Read that book, or if you haven't read that book, I would recommend picking it up. And it applies to everything. The slight edge is essentially that you have to do the little incremental things day in and day out, the things that are so easy to do that they're also so easy not to do. The things that if you don't do them, your life is not going to be affected today. Your life will not end if you do not do any of those things. But if you do those things consistently, long enough, then you have massive compounding effect for your rewards down the road that few people get to experience because they choose not to do the simple things day in and day out to change their life. I mean, whether it's business or fitness or whatever you want it to be, the slight edge applies for anything of great value that takes time, which anything of great value always takes time. So that'd be the mindset. As far as what's next, I'm really focused on our 4 pillars right now. Our 4 pillars are, I kind of started on this journey of the 4 pillars and getting really clear on what I wanted probably about 7 or 8 months into this. And I felt like it was probably going to take about 2 years to get to where I'm trying to go. But the 4 pillars are my flipping acquisitions company, my lending company, my coaching company, and our portfolio. And so the first 3 pillars are active income businesses that are creating capital gains. And then the portfolio is obviously an actively growing thing. That's my wealth. That's my cash flow. That's my fallback. That's what I'm doing all of this for, is to roll those capital gains into passive streams of income that are gonna stay relevant past the test of time and grow with inflation, or hopefully outpace inflation. It's been kind of difficult with how crazy things have gotten, and then eventually I will shut down probably most of the active businesses and just focus on the portfolio.
I love that, man. Parker, thank you so much for sharing your insights, value, and experiences with us today. It's been a pleasure having you on Investor One-on-One. If our investors want to connect with you or learn more about, your businesses, the 4 pillars, anything else, how can they find you?
Yeah, I would say first and foremost, if there's any value that you liked here today and you want to get more of it for free, check us out on a Facebook page. Yeah, I have the Private Wealth Academy is kind of my paid coaching group, but we have the Wealth Builders Roundtable. It's a free Facebook group where I'm doing live trainings every week, providing a lot of good content on there, materials that can be used in your business. And so the Wealth Builders Roundtable Facebook page, check us out there and come on one of our next live trainings that I do every Wednesday at 4 p.m. Eastern time. Got one today coming up in a little bit. And then the Coaching with Parker website, if you'd like to get that repair calculator, you said you were going to link that. And then if you're in Georgia or the Carolinas and you need funding for your deal, transactional funding, new construction, rehabs, or soon-to-be rental properties, we can close in 3 days. So let us know, fasttrackfunding.com.
Perfect. Thank you, Parker. And to everyone watching and listening, thanks for tuning in and stay connected for more interviews with the nation's top investors.
Awesome. Thanks, man.